Hi, it's my pleasure today to welcome Mariam Natorshvili to the last episode of Georgian Female Artist Video Project. Hi, Mariam.
Hello.
And I want to start our conversation from a logical place. So I know that you work together with Detu Jinjaradze, and I wanted to ask you to start with how and when did you kind of come together as collaborators and, as I know, as life partners. So when did this artistic work start for you and Detu?
Hi, Nina. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this talk series of talks. It's a great pleasure to be part of this project and to be in the list of these amazing artists that were before me, discussed before me. So as for me and Detu, our long way started about 10 years ago. It's actually already 10 years ago. I knew him for a long time, but 10 years ago we started to work together and to live together. So it happened in a way on its own. We didn't plan anything. We didn't plan to work together. But we in 2011 we went to CCA, Center of Contemporary Art, Tbilisi's informal mediation program, informal master program in mediation. So it happened on its own that we wanted both to make some projects, and our vision and our ideas worked together very well. So that's how it started. We started to work together, and it continues already for 10 years, and I'm sure it will continue further. That's a short story of our collaboration.
So as I remember from our previous conversation, so you in the beginning you started with Georgian text, I mean, with English, and then transitioning into Georgian words. So, and I know that text and Georgian script is very important for you and for your artistic duo as part of your practice. So can you tell me, where did this engagement start and how it evolved over time?
With text, yeah, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So text, first project that we made together with Detu, it was actually, we started with text, we started with words. And then it continued into different projects as museums and different exhibitions, curating, and etc. Text was always a really important part of my life. My father is also a writer, so text was somehow, I don't know, my everyday life. Like I was from childhood in words, everywhere where words were around me. So, and I used to write when I was a kid. I think teenage age, everyone tries to write something, and but for me, literature, and especially poetry, was really important part of my life. And so I always wanted to work with texts, and I didn't want to work with literature. That was for sure, because I don't know, somehow I didn't want it. It is in a way different story for me. So that's how it started. I wanted to write, but I didn't want to write on paper. I wanted to write everywhere, like in the place that's like, you know, when you write in a book, when you write a book, it's quite different story, of course, but I'm trying to somehow explain how it started. So I wanted to make art and to write in the places that everyone could see, because when you write a book, someone has to buy it, to read it, and it's really different situation.
It's a process. It's a different process, of course. Yes.
But when you write in the street, when you write in public space, and when you write really short sentences, you know, in Twitter, in the times of Twitter, nobody's reading like 300-page books. So it was like, I decided that if I want to write, this would be my my type of writing. Yeah, that's how it started. And then I discovered Kenneth Goldsmith, actually, who is a writer and artist based in New York in United States. But it was after years, actually, when we started writing all these texts, and then I discovered him in 2016. And I read his texts, and I realized that his ideas were the ideas that I wanted to follow, and the ideas that I was, the concepts that I was following. Because he has this concept of writing off the page, and writing not on the pages, not on the paper, but like anywhere, on the flags or on the walls or anywhere. And also his idea of so to say ready-made literature. Like he says that today the writer is a manager, and a writer has to manage to curate texts that are already written, because literature met its photography in a way with internet, and there are so many texts in the internet. It doesn't have any sense to write something new, and I didn't know about this concept, and I didn't know about his ideas, but maybe we both have background, like we are both artists, and that's how it happened that first we started to write in the streets. It was they were ready-made texts. I was collecting sentences and the words from internet, from different, I don't know, social media or programs, or just I don't know, Google website and etc. I was collecting all these sentences, and then we were putting these sentences and these words in different places in Georgia, in Tbilisi. And because we had a lot of time back then, and we were, I don't know, like riding the car all days long around Tbilisi, and we were searching for places and searching for interesting architecture, and especially Soviet architecture. We were interested in Soviet architecture and abandoned architecture as stations of possibilities in a way, because 10 years ago, now it's totally different actually in Tbilisi, but 10 years ago there were plenty of buildings that were not used. Buildings like factories or publishing houses that stopped working in 90s after fall of Soviet Union, and didn't continue existing, and their future was undefined, and also the past of these buildings was of those buildings was also under the question mark in a way, because our past is still not defined, our history still is not defined and not written. So that was whole journey, you know, collecting this ready-made text, and then putting these sentences in different public spaces without any
additions or just but I think also this
Mm-hmm.
idea, you were framing these places by, you were giving them kind of titles, right, in a way, so it was kind of defining them with these words that you chose. I'm curious, and maybe you can show me some examples on your website. So for example, how did it come, how did you choose a word for a specific location, for example? Because I've seen some on your website, so maybe you can just give us a few kind of snapshots from that project.
So it was, you know, it was in a way also unconscious process in a way. We didn't really, we didn't have any methodology, or we didn't have a system.
Poetry was your methodology, right?
Yeah, in a way, poetry actually was the methodology. Because we were finding all these places, and then the place itself was dictating the words and the sentences. This actually, all these places were stories for me in a way, and they needed titles, so we were actually putting titles on these places. That was whole process, and then we were posting the images to the Facebook, and then these images became popular, and then we were invited already to different exhibitions, and we were most of the time trying to work with the place, with the architecture. Datu's background is architecture, and that's why it is a really important part of our practice. Even today, when we are not working anymore in public space, it's quite important part of our practice. All these buildings which carry a lot of, I don't know, thoughts and ideas and history.
Legacy and history, yes,
yes,
sure.
Yes.
Mariam, and when at what point did you switch to Georgian script? Because you've been working with it since.
I think, if I remember, it was 2015 that we started with Georgian words. Actually, we were criticized a lot because of English words, because of English sentences.
Georgian pressure, that you are not patriotic enough.
Yes, probably. Because people were asking, like, we're in Georgia, why do you write in English? And you know, it was, well, I had explanation for that, because those texts are in English. So we had to, like, we were using ready-made texts.
Right, but it's hard to explain to the street, in the streets. Yes, I understand.
Yeah,
sure.
But at some point, as I remember now, this word "chwal," which is tomorrow, appeared in my mind, and it became like, you know, I don't know how it's in English, but this Georgian word when something comes to your mind and you cannot find it.
Yeah, something. Yeah, it's kind of, it keeps lingering in your mind, I would say. Yeah, lingering, exactly. Kind of. Yeah.
So that's tomorrow happened to me. Word tomorrow happened to me, and I didn't forget it. And it was it was like everywhere. And also, this tomorrow is quite Georgian word, you know. Nothing. It is always tomorrow. Like everything will happen tomorrow.
Mañana, as they say, mañana.
Yeah. Even you know this the poem present is not for us, the future is for us. So it's somehow a Georgian identity, you know. It's like a part of identity.
Yes. Bright future. The bright future is always there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And so that's how it started. Yeah, first it was on canvas, actually, this chwal, tomorrow. And before before we were spray painting all these words. And this English font was also drawn by Datu. But you know, there are so many types of English font that you cannot say that it is like our font. But in Georgian case, it was also hand drawn by Datu, and this is very unique font, I think, and I haven't seen this kind of Georgian font before. So and so that's how we started. First it was on canvas, tomorrow, then it was on in Papiashvili Vaberidze window project. It was like in 2015 they had a window project in on Rustaveli Avenue. And oh, it was beautiful. Unfortunately, I don't have a photo here on my website, but then we put it on, even today you can find it, this chwal.
Near Fabrika, right?
Yes, it is on Mazniashvili Street, 3 Mazniashvili Street, and it is already iron, made iron. So this was the first word, and that's how we started. And yeah. Then it was draw, which is time, and you can see here on billboard. Yep, and this was Iqodara Iqora, which is Georgian way of once upon a time, but for me it's more meaning is quite different for me, because it was and it wasn't. So I like this duality of being and not being, and all this idea and concept of this sentence. And then we did, like, here on my website, I have only, on our website, we have only some of these sentences, but we were working in different cities, in different, sometimes on exhibitions, sometimes again without permission, sometimes during festivals. This Dumili silence, this is in Kutaisi, for example. It was during this is a wall of a museum of David Kakabadze, Georgian artist.
Yes.
So yep, so that's how we transferred to. But now today we still work with texts. It's totally different. These are digital texts, and we work with both English and Georgian, and yeah. So we're too old for spray painting in the streets, actually.
that phase has passed. So I wanted to ask you also, you engage a lot with Georgian history, and I know this is ongoing theme for you and your artistic duo as well. So, and you engage a lot with historical layers, identity, and as we know, the nature of Georgian history of 20th century is pretty complex. So I'm wondering how you find the entry points into Georgian history, and how do you choose the specific kind of layer or theme or topic or person or story that you want to engage with?
It depends. It always depends on a project. For example, well, first of all, I'm interested in, I started, my interest in history started from my own biography. You know, I wanted to, actually how it started, it was sitting in the library, and I decided to read the newspapers of the year I was born. It was 1987. And I was collecting the articles and the title of the articles printed during this year. It was communist newspaper, and then I discovered that this is in a way poetry. All these titles without articles, yeah, they are somehow without this context and without content. They turn into some kind of again ready-made poetry.
Yes, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's how it started, and then I was always well, I have a problem with history. I don't remember, like, I studied history at school, but I don't remember. I don't know Georgian history. Like, I don't remember all these names and years and anything. Like, I don't know. I always need to Google, and then it comes to my mind. But I'm interested particularly in 20th century history and post-Soviet history of Georgia. And this period in Georgian history is, well, it is somehow, I don't know, ignored. Not ignored, but it is not enough. It is not researched.
It's not research. I feel like it's under researched, and I think we touched on this also before. It's unwritten because it's mostly oral. It's oral history, it's stories. Because, as you know, this kind of research, it needs like very dedicated kind of collective of historians to really come together and look through everything, and it takes years and it takes generations probably in our case. So this probably is one of the topics that it's oral rather than written.
Yeah. Yep. Because what happened in Georgia is that after collapse of Soviet Union, all these institutes, the Soviet institutes that were working in a scientific direction, they were kind of cancelled. So a lot of things have changed, and I don't know, people are not, most of the historians today are not interested in researching post-Soviet history or Soviet history. So I was very lucky to meet guys from SovLab, from the Laboratory of Research of Soviet Past, and we started to collaborate, and we did several projects together. The last project we did is together with Writer House. It is a museum of repressed writers, which will be museum in Writer's House. Opening is in April.
Oh, it's this April. So interesting. Yeah.
So that's how it happened in a way, from my own biography, from forgotten stories, because all these forgotten stories and forgotten people were always I was always interested in the things that were disappearing, that were erased, or that were forgotten. For example, also visually, when I was a kid, I remember all these photos, erased photos, you know, from Stalin's period, the photos from which people were disappeared.
Yeah.
Here, yeah, people were erased from the photos, and even sometimes the family members were erasing those people. So it's these are the stories of people and the stories of things that that we don't remember, and we need to remember this. We need to discuss these stories as a society, and
Revisit
art
them,
can be
sure.
interesting tool for this. So somehow I always try to work on this direction. The last project that I did, which is one of the last projects that I did, it is a book. It is in Georgian. It is a collection of oral stories, and it is about homelessness in Georgia, actually, in Tbilisi. It is about 15 stories, but the thing is that these stories describe and tell Georgian history from the collapse of Soviet Union, and that's how I'm interested in telling history, like not to work in historical research, but to find history in another stories, which can recreate this different parts of our history that are not discussed, that are neglected and forgotten, and
repressed also
because of political platforms. So yeah. So that's how it is. I don't know if I was clear. I'm sorry, I was jumping a lot.
No, that's fine. So also another thing, you've been like systematically engaged with the notion of museums, as I know. I think first the museum that you worked with, that you experimented with creating, and I want to hear more about this, Museum of Superstitions that I think you worked on in Batumi in 2013, if I remember correctly. And also I want you to touch on the Museum on Call, the project that was active from 2017, right? So can you please tell me more about this too? And also, I think it's very important that you are engaging with this notion of museum in Georgia, because as we know, museums are this kind of temples of collective memory, and the way you work around them, I think it's kind of highlights the transition into kind of more modern understanding of it, more contemporary understanding of it.
Yeah. So yeah, Museum of Superstitions, it was a ghost museum. It was for only 3 days in Batumi.
Oh, it just was for 3 days. Interesting.
Yes. It was an exhibition, actually. It was a part of exhibitions during the Batumi Backyard Stories, the festival, which was taking place in Batumi, and we collected the superstitions in the city, in Old Town in Batumi, and we then tried to somehow to visualize with some different objects of the superstitions. Superstitions as a way of thinking. That's what it was quite interesting for me. And this was the first museum that we made, and then we continued with different museums, exhibition museum, like these were exhibitions that we were calling museums, actually.
And Mariam, why is it that you call them museums? Do you think it's because museum kind of, when you think of a museum, always think of a way of documenting, right? So is it because of this kind of connection to documentation that you choose this title of museum rather than something that's less permanent?
Well, first of all, because we were first thing that why we were using this word, it was that most of the time we were again working with the material, with the content that was gone in a way,
fleeting,
and that could exist only in museum, in the walls of the museums. But then it continued with different projects, with different museums, but the logical not end, but the transitional period was this Museum of Contemporary Art, Museum on Call. I should start the story with a small short context maybe, because in Tbilisi there is no Museum of Contemporary Art, but there are several private museums which are called museums of art, but MoMA Tbilisi, for example, which is the private museum of one Georgian artist. In a way, so and I was really jealous. I was like, I also want my own museum, and then we made it. Yeah, so we were working on the research together with artist Natalia Vatsadze during 2017, I think, and we were researching unofficial, so-called unofficial art of 80s and 90s, and it also happened because we didn't. We couldn't find any information about this period, and also Liga Choseli, our friend, was one of the initiators of this project, of the research project, and we also discovered that you also mentioned that not only history, but also art history is oral in Georgia.
Right. And I think that this is one of the reasons why we are doing this project in the first place, that we are recording this, because it's also part of oral history. Yes, go ahead, yes. Sorry.
Yeah. And so then we wanted to share this. We collected a lot of information about art in Georgia in the end of 80s and in the beginning of 90s, and we somehow wanted to share this with society. And at some point we were talking, and I remember this phrase that I told, you know, that I said that in a way I'm museum myself because I can tell the stories. And I like this sentence, and we thought, okay, if we are museums, if I am a museum, I somehow need to get inside people's apartments to share the stories. So we need something, we need some way to do this, and then we decided to put up a Facebook page. We put my number there, and we decided that today you can order anything at home, so why not you could also order museum at home, and we made this museum on call. We have chosen about 30 works of artists, of Georgian artists from 80s until today. The collection was called Georgia, and actually we were again telling the history of Georgia with different artworks from different time, different artists. People could call us, and we were going to their apartment with a suitcase full of documentation, video and photo documentation, and we were telling the stories of Georgian art. And also all these works were somehow connected with social or political issues, and we were trying to raise the questions about some issues that are still quite topical also today. That's how it was happening, and for me there were two main ideas. First of all, it was this temporary autonomous zone. If we refer to Akin Bay, you know, we were converting the living rooms or kitchens of people into temporary museums, and wherever we the flag of museum, imaginary flag, this place would turn into museum. So that was for me the really important concept. And the second, it was also the storytelling, the speaking. It was now I'm thinking like it was, I don't know how many years ago already, 4 3 4 ago, and now I can somehow discuss it from distance, and it was in a way some kind of performance, and the speaking performance, and it was really important. And in Georgian there is in East there was a tradition of this public speaker who would stand in markets or on the squares and tell different stories were listening. So it was also somehow continuation of
this tradition. You know, it's wonderful. Yep. Mariam, is there is there any documentation of this now available in any form, like in a digital form? Because this is so much work that you put into this. You should create some kind of archive of this information, also for research. That would be really interesting to see.
Yes, I also thought about it, but what happened, like we stopped this project out before pandemic, actually when pandemic started. The thing is that we never, there are a lot of videos, interviews from on TVs and etc. But we never gave permission to shoot the process itself, because it was always different. Like any visit or any call was always different from every visit, and every call was always different from each other. That's why it was a performance in a way. And even if the documentation would exist, it would not be, I don't know. Sometimes even today, like this year, I did it once. When someone asks me really very much, I'm ready to do it.
Okay, next
Again,
time I'm in Georgia, I'm calling you.
Yes.
Great. Mariam, before moving on to your conversation, to your digital direction, I want you to actually talk a little bit about another interesting project that you were engaged with, which is Illegal Cosmonautica, a project that won Apex Art Open Call among 400 other proposals. And it took place in Georgia. And I know that you are one of the curators together with Magda Guruli, I believe. So can you tell me a little bit more about this concept and how did it come together?
So Illegal Cosmonautica is a concept of Zura Jishkariani, artist and writer and musician based in Tbilisi, my very good friend and very inspiring artist. As I told about chval, this word, Georgian word amek viata, that's how it happened, this concept. I knew this concept, I remembered it.
Zura kind of became part of your,
yeah,
go ahead.
Doing different performances under this concept in the end of 2000s. We did this project in 2017, I think, and somehow I remember this idea, this concept. I could not forget it anymore. And when there was open call of this Apex Art, we together with Magda Guruli offered Zura to somehow try to make a turn a new page of this concept in a way, and to make an exhibition out of this. He agreed, and we applied, and we won, and we were really very happy. And yeah, the concept in one sentence, the concept of exhibition was in one sentence: what happens and what we do if all the systems crash down. And actually, in a way, it was also like a prediction in a way, because after 5 or 4 years, when the pandemic started, we were in this situation in a way, but
yeah,
we were ready for this, because when suddenly everything falls apart, and nothing works anymore. And I always say that in Georgia, we have this experience.
Yes, we do. From 1990s, yeah, sure.
The civil wars, and from endless crises, we know how to deal with this emergencies, situations.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, the exhibition was in an amazing place near Tbilisi. It is closed territory, closed building, but it is abandoned in a way.
It was Space Institute, right? Former Space Institute.
Yes. Space Institute, which is part of Technical University, but it has not worked since Soviet Union. So this was the exhibition space, and we invited about 5 artists. And it was, this escape is actually, escape is from this exhibition. And we are asked artists to reflect on this concept and on this topic with different mediums. And think it was
And
interesting.
I think it was also interesting to hear to read actually about some of the workshops that you offered during this presentation. For example, guerrilla gardening or how to build your own radio. I think it was very useful, probably for some people when the pandemic started as well. So yeah, this. Okay, Mariam, so tell me what happened with I know that the start of the pandemic and the isolation that it brought for all of us, it kind of pushed you into your new direction, which is digital art. And I know that you worked on it before. So probably the first project for you, I think from that time, was State of Emergency. So can you tell me a little bit more and maybe show some visuals to go with this?
Actually, yeah, it started from pandemic, our transition to the new medium, but in a way, already in 2019, we organized. Just a second, I will find it's quite difficult to speak and to search something at the same time.
Sure.
We organized Festival of Words, and the topic was time, and it was a big project, and I won't start describing this project, but with this project I realized that somehow something is ending. I don't know, it was also some kind of I don't know how to say, intuition or something, and I realized, and we both realized, that we need to start something new, because for us the texts and words, well, they will always exist in our practice, and I'm not even thinking working without the words, but in the way the direction that we were going to was like somehow ended, not direction, but the way that the road, in a way, the road,
Right.
those text sentences. So we felt that we had to find something new, some new way, some new road. And for 1 year, I think that who started to learn programming and some programs for video games and for making video games. And when the pandemic started, it was a huge change also, and for me it was a beginning of new time, and I still believe that the new time has begun, and in this new time we needed new forms and new words and new forms of reflection and expression. And after 1 week of lockdown, we started to work, and we started to work on the video games based projects. The state of emergency, this is a video, but also interactive 3D installation. So you can walk inside this place, and you can listen to the text that is about the times, about this change, about this transition. But you can also watch a video. So it has, in a way, two ways that it can be experienced.
Two ways of engagement. Okay. Yeah.
Or it can be an interactive video game based work. And it is, for me, it is really quite important to use video game platforms, not some, I don't know, 3D programs or 3D, I don't know, 3D animation, but video games, because for me, all these works, it can be video, or it can be a interactive animation, or it can be, I don't know, virtual reality. It is important that initially it is a video game, because it is a quite I don't know, quite big part of, conceptually big part of our work. And all these places, you can never see a person in our works, a human around in these videos.
Post-apocalyptic.
Yes, in a way. You can feel that someone was there, but in a way, these are abandoned games, in a way. Like, I was always thinking, you know, I always liked video games, and I always liked playing, and I was always thinking for Counter, for example, yeah, one of most popular games, shooter.
Right.
So it's quite a simple thing. The soldiers are, it is a war and soldiers are shooting, but I was always thinking that what happens when no one is playing, you know, and I was always inspired by the architecture of video games. So everything that we were working on, architecture, words, texts, writing, speaking, everything, we moved all these mediums to this platform, to video game platforms. And actually, if we were before making art in public space, now we started to create public spaces and to put then different words in these public spaces. And also it is, you know, it is quite amazing in a way, because you can never write something on the sky, for example. It is, you can, but it is difficult, or you can do whatever you. So, so yeah, that's how we moved
through this. And Mariam, just in general, I'm curious to hear, what do you think about this explosion in the digital art, explosion with NFTs, that has happened since the start of the pandemic and throughout this time, and continues. This process will probably continue. And as an artist who is engaged actively with the digital media, I'm curious, what do you think? So do you think over time, like in 20 or 30 years, this kind of digital art will it take over the physical art, the physical objects, or you think it will be maybe a dominant force, but there still will be something else left for like physical engagement?
Well, it's quite a difficult question.
Right.
I would be happy,
but
if
it's interesting question to consider, right?
Yeah. Let's think about it. Well, NFT could be a quite useful thing for artists, because before, well, we could sell a video, but it could be a copy. The copy could exist, yeah. So NFT became a possibility of I don't know, of creating new art market, new market of digital art. But at the moment, I think that NFT today, it could be, I don't know, it could decentralize this art market and art world. It could be more democratic, etc., etc. But I think it happened vice versa. You know, NFT became everything that it was in art world in different countries, became part of this. Were somehow united in this NFT, you know, this, it is not decentralized, it is not democratic, and I don't know, let's see how it continues and how it progresses, but it can be, yeah, it can be a quite useful thing in future. As for digital art, I don't know, I think it can be one of the, it can be one of the main mediums of future, but I'm sure that there will always be people who would prefer oil and canvas. You know, it is as today there are people that like prefer conceptual literature, but there are people who love, I don't know,
Balzac,
or traditional kind of literature. So it depends. Yeah, it depends. But I think that. Is there are a lot of possibilities, more possibilities in digital world and in digital art. I think that it will be the dominant art in future, because I don't know where all these installations will go in real life. You know, it's too much, already too much. At least
it's already right. That's a good point. And metaverse would need its own digital art component too. So I think metaverse is going to change a lot of things down the line when it's at its full capacity. Maybe not now, but maybe in 10, 15 years. When I have a feeling at least part of the globe will sit and enjoy metaverse while the other half will be living, or something like this will happen. That's how I feel like with Oculuses, maybe. I hope not, but I feel like this is the way it's going. I don't know. We'll see. Mariam, so how about the next digital projects that you are working on after state of emergency? You had Lost and Found, and also The City Was Sleeping, right? So can you tell me a little bit about this? And also, what are you working on as a presentation for Venice Biennale, where you will be representing Georgia this year? Which is great.
So then we continue in 2020. We made, I think, 3 videos. It was about and in a way it was a shelter, you know, for us. The work was shelter, not to get crazy in this pandemic and in these changes, in this crazy changes. And we were working all the time. What else could we do? So it was quite a big change also for us, in a way of life and in lifestyle. And we did also, yeah, this Lost and Found, which is all these videos are online on our website. So
it's it's great, good to point out.
I prefer to have all these works accessible to public, and so that anyone can watch. Of course, it is much better to see them, especially this Lost and Found, to see it on a big screen in a darkness, but still, yeah. And it is a spell to bring the lost one, who is lost, and is actually the text that I'm reading. It is a spell, but written by me. I was researching spell. It's actually a different word. I don't know how the exact word would be in English, you know, because shelotsoa, it is spell. It is or it is correct, yes, spell. So it is a text that you read to make something happen. And Georgia, it's quite old ladies remember all these spells, but I love this text because
it's very interesting. Always been very interesting for me, this whole topic of spells, honestly. Yeah. I feel like this is such a organic part of old Georgian culture that has been transmitted through this generation of ladies. So it's very interesting how you interpret it in this digital format for me. Yeah.
Yep, and they are also oral. This is in a way oral poetry, right. And I tried to mix. I wrote a new one, like contemporary one, and I was thinking that Georgia. Sometimes I think that Georgia is a country of lost people. You know, it is quite sad and it is quite tragic, but yeah, that's how I was thinking, especially in these times, and it is an attempt to bring these lost people back, my friends or people around me, and yeah, lost. And the text says that lost in I don't know, in wars, lost in bank debts, etc., etc. So it's not. I don't mean the people who are lost in forest, for example.
Yeah, not missing. Yeah, not missing, but permanently lost. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There is gravity to it. I can feel the gravity to it. Yeah.
So this is quite poetic piece, and it is quite difficult to speak about it and to describe it. It's better to watch it and to listen to it. So I think, and then we started in 2000. Yeah, then in 2020 we continued with virtual reality, and we started to working on virtual reality. One of the projects was about Tbilisi, about Tbilisi's architecture, and architecture as a science and metaphors of history. The name of the project is The City Was Sleeping and Having a Dream, and it is a dream of Tbilisi. It is made together with a short documentary video, and it is in a way the virtual reality unconsciousness of the city, and the video is the reality of the city, the real city, and it was showed on ITFA, and yeah,
in Copenhagen, right?
Yeah, in Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam, sorry.
Yeah, and we will show it in Tbilisi. We were planning to show it in February, but as we are now busy with Venice preparing we are busy with production of work for Venice Biennial. We will show it after in summer. This work
in summer.
Yeah, and yep. So yes, and the I Pity the Garden is the name of the project that we're working now on. It is it will in April. It will be in Venice. It is virtual
Wonderful.
reality. Yep.
I'm looking very forward to seeing it and hopefully in person. We'll see how it goes. Let's see. So, and probably this will be the last question. So as you know, for this project, I mean, I researched and interviewed, you are the 12th artist in this series, 12 artists. So starting chronologically, probably Vera Parava would be the first one. So I'm curious, you as an artist, how important, first of all, is gender for you as an artist? And second of all, do you feel the gender defines artists in Georgia right now, in the new generation? Does it have, do they have some issues with their gender, or do contemporary younger Georgian artists they don't have this kind of problem anymore? It's not an issue.
It is well, being a woman in Georgia is quite difficult,
right?
Not only in art, but like everywhere, in every
aspect. Yeah.
Yes,
sure.
And in art, it's now easier for women. Like 20, 30 years ago, the art scene was dominated
male
by
dominated. Yeah, sure.
And, now it is actually more women. I don't know. I think it has a lot of reasons. First of all, probably it is a financial thing. You know, you cannot earn much money in art in Georgia. So after I don't know, this last 20 years, the success and all these neoliberal ideas became dominant in Georgia, and men has to be more successful and earn much money. So maybe that's why it is not so popular. Because in Soviet times, male artists, it was quite prestigious profession, and they were making money. Like it was quite financially good position, because there were this. There were different jobs that they were painting all these huge canvases for different
all the murals and state-sponsored propaganda. Of course, it always helped. Mosaics, for example. Sure.
So there was money, and now there is no money in contemporary art. So that's why probably men are not interested anymore.
Right.
And they were before, and now it's more women and more girls.
The main kind of,
Yes, but it is of course difficult. I was always lucky that in my family and people around me, nobody ever told me that you are a girl and you shouldn't do this, or you should behave like this or like that. I was quite lucky, and I'm a woman artist, and all the works that we do together with Detu, it is also partially from a woman's perspective, of course. So yes, I always try to help and support young girls who want to be on this art scene, and to be more supportive, because I know how difficult it is, and I know how tough it is to be a woman in this country, because life for men is much easier here, of course.
Yes, I mean, Georgia continues to be patriarchal state. I mean, patriarchal society. Yes, there are some changes and shifts, but also I feel like there is a very big difference between what happens in Tbilisi and what happens outside of it, like in different regions. I feel like 15 minutes away from Tbilisi, it's a very different story. And somehow we tend to forget that a little bit when we are in the capital. So, yeah.
So, yes. That's it, I think. It is difficult to say that all our works are because it's me and Detu, and these works
So
are
it's both
collaborative.
genders there. It's interesting.
Yeah. In my ideal world, my ideal world is post-gender world. So yeah, dominated by women, biologically women. Still,
Biological.
it's I think that I think that now it is our time, and in every part of the world it has to be our time, slowly, but yes, we have
But surely, yeah, that's a
we
great
can see
ending
what
to this.
we have
Go
done
ahead.
to the world, so so
Right.
definitely.
No, that's great. That's a great point to end this this interview and this kind of project also, because I think we've seen through this very stories of this very strong, incredible women who really were able to push through all the limitations, and the story continues with you and continues with the generations that follow you, and it will be exciting to watch what happens next. So thank you, Mariam. I appreciate your time. Yes, I appreciate your time, and good luck in Venice, and all the best to you and Detu.
Hope to see you there.
Sure.